welcome to this deep dive. Today we are opening up a stack of excerpts from Brynne Weaver's novel, Harvest Season.
Yeah, which is the second book in the Seasons of Carnage series.
Right. And we have a lot of ground to cover today because this story sits at a wildly unique intersection.
It really does. It's totally genre bending.
Yeah, we're looking at a dark romantic comedy that also somehow operates as an incredibly tense psychological thriller.
Which is a remarkable blending of genres, you know? The source material we're looking at today really challenges the conventional boundaries of fiction.
Totally. And the mission for this deep dive is to unpack exactly how that balancing act works.
Right, like how the author manages the tone.
Exactly. We want to explore how a story can feature, laugh-out-loud absurdity like hiding dismembered bodies inside giant topiary moose while simultaneously delivering profound explorations of trauma.
Yeah, and grief.
And the devastating, exhausting realities of Alzheimer's disease. So whether you're a thriller aficionado or romance reader, or you're just insanely curious about how a book can feature trigger warnings for both wood chippers and caregiving responsibilities, well, this deep dive is going to give you those aha moments.
It really is a masterclass in weaving dark humor with real human emotion.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because to truly understand what we're dealing with here, you have to look at the content warnings.
Oh, absolutely. The content warnings for this book are essentially a roadmap for the emotional whiplash you are about to experience.
Seriously, usually when you pick up a book, the warnings give you a clean diagnostic landscape. Like you see a warning for violence and you brace for an action thriller.
Right, or explicit sexual content, and you know you're getting a romance.
Exactly. But then you look at the warnings for Harvest Season, and that neat little map is just entirely on fire. It is completely murky.
It's all over the place.
It is. Because right alongside warnings for dismembered bodies and breaking and entering, you have explicitly listed warnings for caregiving responsibilities and the realities of dementia.
Which is so heavy.
It is. Oh, and my personal favorite, there's literally a warning for Cookie Monster the wood chipper.
I mean, that alone creates a sense of profound disorientation before you even read the first page.
Yeah, totally.
You're bracing for a story where you might be laughing at something deeply inappropriate on one page and then dealing with profound heartbreak on the next.
Which is wild.
But it functions beautifully because beneath the surface level of murder and mayhem, this is fundamentally a story about identity. It explores what happens when the past simply refuses to stay buried.
Yeah. And how grief physically and emotionally alters a person. So to really get into that mutation, we have to slow down and look at the core relationship that drives this entire narrative forward.
Right, the dynamic between Harper and Nolan.
Yes. Harper, who is secretly a woman named Autumn Bauer and a man named Nolan Rhodes. We are talking about the absolute extreme end of the frenemies with benefits to lovers trope.
Honestly, that label almost feels too light for what they actually are.
It really does.
To understand why their dynamic is so magnetic, you really have to look at the deeply intertwined, traumatic backstories that brought them together.
Okay, lay it out for us.
So we have to start with Harper, or rather, Autumn. 4 years ago, Autumn faked her own death to escape a notorious serial killer named Harvey Meade.
And Meade didn't just target her, right? The excerpts detail how Meade brutally murdered her boyfriend Adam right above her while she was trapped and helpless.
Exactly. That is a level of foundational trauma that completely shatters a person's reality.
So she eventually escapes, she burns Meade's house to the ground, leaves her old identity in the ashes, and runs as far as she can to a coastal town called Cape Carnage, Maine.
Right. She essentially hollows herself out to survive, and she assumes the identity of Harper Starling.
But the real Harper wasn't exactly innocent.
No, the real Harper was a drunk driver who conveniently drove her car off a cliff while Autumn happened to be watching. So Autumn takes the opportunity to step into a dead woman's life.
Which is incredibly dark.
It is. But this is where the web becomes incredibly tangled. Because the people in the car that Autumn allowed to go over that cliff, one of them was responsible for the death of Nolan's brother, Billy, in a hit-and-run accident.
Wow, talk about a collision course.
Completely.
So Nolan tracks this fake Harper down, and he is not looking to ask her out for coffee.
Not at all.
He tracks her to Cape Carnage specifically to kill her, believing she's the drunk driver who destroyed his family.
He arrives with a singular lethal purpose, but when he finally corners her, they don't follow the typical predator and prey script.
No, they don't.
They end up locked in this incredibly toxic yet magnetic orbit because they instantly recognize something familiar in each other. They are both lethal.
Lethal is putting it mildly. I mean, there is a scene that perfectly encapsulates this dynamic. Harper is walking in the woods at night, and she becomes convinced that a bear is tracking her.
Right, standard horror movie setup.
Exactly. Most people would freeze or run silently, but she turns to the dark woods and literally announces, "You should know that I taste like regret and broken dreams."
That's such a great line.
It is. And then she bolts. But when a dark figure finally emerges from the bushes, she doesn't cower. She pulls out a collapsible shovel, hits him square in the face, and pepper sprays him.
And of course, it's not a bear.
Nope, it's Nolan.
And that reaction is incredibly telling. I mean, a normal person would call the police or panic. Nolan's nose might be broken, he's bleeding, he's blinded by pepper spray, but his reaction isn't fear.
He's impressed.
He's utterly enthralled by her defiance. Her instinct to fight back just mirrors his own aggression.
Wait, I have to stop and look at the reality of the setup, though. He tracked her down with a backpack full of weapons.
Yeah, he did.
He literally packed a cheese slicer that he planned to use to take a piece of her skin as a trophy.
Yeah, it's pretty gruesome.
So wait, so he tracked her down to slice her up with a cheese slicer, and now they're having profound emotional connections. It's like a rom-com meet cute, but instead of spilling coffee on each other, you hit your partner with a shovel. How does an author possibly make a reader root for this dynamic?
What's fascinating here is that it's a really difficult needle to thread, but the psychological mechanism works.
How so?
Their romance works specifically because of their shared trauma. They're both predators who stepped entirely outside the bounds of the law to avenge the people they lost.
Right, they're both outside normal society.
Exactly. When Nolan starts observing her, he realizes that Autumn isn't the cold-blooded villain he thought she was. He sees a survivor trapped in a maze of her own making.
And he kind of accepts that darkness.
He does. The moment he burns the pages of his kill scrapbook that were dedicated to her, he's acknowledging that they're kindred spirits.
He sees the ghosts she's carrying, and he validates them. There's this moment in the text that provides such a stark contrast to all that violence. Nolan finds a silver bracelet that belongs to Harper.
Oh, the Adam bracelet.
Yeah, it belonged to her murdered boyfriend, Adam, and it has the engraving A2BC on it.
Which stands as this physical anchor to a life that was violently stolen from her. The acronym itself, Adam to Autumn, before and currently, represents an unbroken chain to her humanity.
It's so sad.
It is. It's the one piece of evidence that Autumn Bauer still exists somewhere inside Harper Starling.
And what's wild is a raven had actually dropped it in Harper's sink earlier.
Right, which is its own kind of strange omen.
Yeah, but when Nolan finds it, he doesn't use it as leverage. He doesn't interrogate her about it. He just quietly hands it back. It's this profound, silent admission that he accepts the traumatic pieces of her past without demanding she explain them.
Returning the bracelet is his way of communicating that he sees the sheer weight of her trauma and he isn't afraid of it. For two people who have spent years completely isolated by their own darkness, having someone look at your deepest wounds without flinching is the ultimate form of intimacy.
It really is. And that isolation is a huge theme here. But Harper's complications aren't just internal or romantic. They are heavily logistical.
Oh, definitely.
Because when she moved to Cape Carnage, she didn't get a normal job at a bakery. She found a sanctuary with an elderly mentor named Arthur Lancaster.
Arthur is one of the most compelling elements of the narrative. He's this aristocratic, sharply dressed, elderly man who walks with a bespoke cane featuring a silver wolf's head.
He sounds so distinguished.
He does, but he is also a prolific serial killer. He exclusively murders obnoxious tourists who disrespect the town, and he essentially forces Harper to clean up his messes.
And this is where the dark comedy really takes center stage. I mean, Harper's cleanup routine involves a wood chipper that she affectionately calls Cookie Monster.
Which is just, yeah.
And while she works, she is accompanied by a foul-mouthed raven named Morpheus.
Who literally mimics her voice, demanding murder cookies.
It's so absurd. They mulch these tourists, and Arthur uses the organic matter as compost for his bizarre garden topiaries. He shapes them into things like a decapitated moose and piping plovers.
It sounds completely unhinged on paper. It is wonderfully, grotesquely absurd. But the author is doing something incredibly clever here.
The absurdity is a cover.
Exactly. It's a Trojan horse. It's a vehicle used to deliver a devastating, grounded, emotional reality. Because beneath the murders and the ravens, Arthur is suffering from mild cognitive impairment, which is rapidly transitioning into early Alzheimer's disease.
And this transition completely changes the atmosphere of the book. You go from laughing at the sheer ridiculousness of a bird demanding human meat snacks to moments that absolutely shatter you.
Yeah, the tonal shift is intense.
Like there's a scene during the town's annual gardening competition. The judging committee is walking the grounds, and Harper is desperately trying to manage the situation and ensure no one notices the unconventional fertilizer.
Right.
And right in the middle of this high-stakes moment, Arthur gets confused. He looks at Harper, the woman who protects him, who manages his life, who literally mulches bodies for him, and he genuinely asks, "Who is Harper? Who are you?"
Yeah, it is a staggering loss of an anchor for both characters. For Arthur, his memory is slipping away, and with it goes his meticulous control over his life and his lethal hobby.
And for Harper,
She's watching the only father figure she has left slowly vanish right in front of her.
but let's look at the mechanics of how she's handling this. She is running a massive, loud wood chipper to mulch a tourist in broad daylight. She is literally complaining to Nolan about the chore, throwing bloody limbs into the hopper while the sun is shining.
It's not very subtle.
Exactly. Isn't running a wood chipper to mulch a tourist in broad daylight incredibly reckless? It's like trying to hide a bank robbery by setting off fireworks.
Right.
Why is a character who successfully hid from a serial killer for 4 years suddenly making such massive sloppy mistakes?
That is the crucial question. And if you look closely at the text, Harper's recklessness isn't just poor planning. No, it's a direct symptom of severe caregiver burnout. The author takes the very real, isolating nightmare of dementia and cranks the volume up to 1,000.
Oh, wow.
Running a wood chipper in daylight isn't just a plot hole, it is a manifestation of her sheer exhaustion.
That makes total sense. Think about how exhausting standard caregiving is.
Yeah.
The sleep deprivation, the constant hypervigilance. Now imagine your patient is actively killing people while losing their memory.
Right, it's unimaginable.
The extreme scenario of covering up murders is just a heightened metaphor for the isolating, heartbreaking reality of caring for a loved one with dementia.
Exactly. Her situational awareness is completely eroded by fatigue. Arthur's grandson, Lucas, actually pushes for a logical solution. He wants to move Arthur into a specialized memory care facility called Whispering Pines.
He even sets up a tour, right?
He does, but both Harper and Arthur fiercely resist it.
Harper's refusal to put Arthur in Whispering Pines really highlights the desperate lengths we go to for the people we love. She knows it's logically safer. She knows she's risking her own freedom, but she's willing to shoulder all of that risk just to let Arthur maintain his dignity in his own home.
It's a profound act of love wrapped in the guise of a thriller. But as you pointed out, you can't run a wood chipper in broad daylight without consequences.
No, you really can't.
The intense focus Harper has to place on caring for Arthur creates massive blind spots. And while she's focused on the internal chaos of Lancaster Manor, an external threat is quietly closing in on Cape Carnage.
You can't mulch a bunch of tourists without someone noticing. This brings us to the sleuth seekers.
Yes, the internet detectives.
These are amateur internet detectives from a Discord server who have descended on the town: Emma, Charlie, and Tyler. They are investigating the deaths of a documentarian named Sam and his drone operator, Vinny.
The digital world bleeding into the physical world creates a very modern kind of tension. These amateur sleuths are unpredictable because they don't follow police procedure.
They just poke around.
Yeah, they're incredibly persistent.
And there's a tense encounter in a shop called Maya's Magical Mixtures. Harper overhears them showing around a photo of the back of her head. You can feel the net physically tightening.
Which prompts Nolan to step in with an incredibly risky, desperate gambit.
What does he do?
Well, to protect Harper, Nolan volunteers to lead the official police search and rescue operation for another missing tourist, Peter Evanston.
But here's where it gets really interesting. He doesn't just lead it, he actively sabotages it.
He does.
He starts misdirecting the volunteer teams entirely away from Arthur's usual dumping grounds along the Ballantine River.
Yeah.
He even digs up old bones from past victims, like Bryce Mahoney, just to plant them as false leads miles away.
It is a massive misdirection campaign.
But does Nolan actually think he can outsmart an army of internet sleuths by leading the official search? It's like a fox volunteering to lead the bloodhounds. He's putting himself right in the crosshairs.
It's a profoundly dangerous play, and your analogy of the fox and the bloodhounds is perfect. Why does a smart man make such a reckless move?
Yeah, why?
It all comes down to hubris, driven by his intense need to save Harper. He assumes he can control the narrative, but he fundamentally underestimates the existing power structures in this town. He thinks he's the top of the food chain, setting the stage for a catastrophic betrayal.
Which brings us to the absolute gut punch twist of this story. Nolan thought the Discord detectives were the ultimate threat, but the true danger was inside the house the whole time.
Right. The seemingly bumbling local law enforcement, Sheriff Yates, is revealed to be a highly calculated, cold-blooded manipulator.
Yates. The way the author hides him in plain sight is brilliant. He walks around with his arm in a sling, chatting about local gossip, asking Nolan if he played rugby.
He totally disarms everyone.
But behind the scenes, his actions are terrifying. He sneaks into Harper's cottage, steals Arthur's pills, and most chillingly, he steals a Black Knight chess piece from the B8 square on Harper's chessboard.
That detail is incredibly significant. The knight on B8 is a piece in its starting position. By stealing it, Yates is sending a psychological message. He's telling her he sees her defenses and he's claiming dominance.
He views her as a project, he knows she's Autumn Bauer, and he views her as a chrysalis. He needs to force open so she can become his legacy.
It's a terrifying mentorship, and to force her open, he orchestrates a climax designed for maximum devastation. Yates takes the very bone that Nolan had hidden to plant as a false lead.
He steals it back.
Yes, and he uses it to frame Nolan. Then he breaks into the manor and stabs Arthur to death while the opera Tosca plays in the background.
Oh my God, the framing of Nolan is flawless. The fallout from this is just harrowing to read. Harper is left screaming in grief, fully believing that Nolan betrayed her. Meanwhile, Nolan is hauled away in handcuffs by Yates.
It's completely crushing.
But so what does this all mean? Yates has completely dismantled Harper's sanctuary. Why frame Nolan instead of just arresting Harper for the bodies?
Because Yates isn't interested in conventional justice. He recognizes Autumn as a fellow apex predator. By removing her anchors, Arthur, her mentor, and Nolan, her love Yates Kydream, Yates intends to strip away her morality.
He wants to isolate her.
Completely. He wants to forge her into a monster in his own image.
It is a breathtaking and horrifying setup. To briefly recap the incredible tightrope that Harvest Season walks for you as a listener, it takes you from laughing at a raven demanding murder cookies to swooning over a fiercely protective romance.
Yeah, and then right into mourning the devastating loss of a mentor to Alzheimer's and murder.
Exactly.
Hmm.
It's a powerful reminder that the most captivating stories don't just entertain us. They force us to look at extreme fictional situations and find the very real human truths hidden inside them.
Truths about grief, caregiving, and the lengths we go to for love.
Which leaves you with a final lingering question to mull over. In a story where the heroes are actively disposing of bodies and the villain is the local sheriff, what does true justice actually look like?
That's a great question.
If Autumn Bauer fully embraces the darkness that Yates wants to pull out of her to get her revenge, does she finally become the very monster she spent 4 years trying to escape?
Or does she prove that even those in the shadows can maintain a moral code?
It absolutely makes you wonder. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.